What is up, guys? In this video, we have the honor and privilege of interviewing Ryan Kimbrel. Am I saying that right?
You are nailed it.
Awesome, awesome. I actually came across Ryan about a year ago. We've never met or never talked in person, so this is the first time we are doing this. And so I was on LinkedIn. I typed in cybersecurity, and Ryan popped up, and I've been following ever since. And so I'm sure we'll be able to dive a little more into what he does. But Ryan, thank you for joining me. It's an honor and privilege, and I know you have so much wealth to give back, and so I'm just looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for reaching out. Yeah, I'm always happy and excited and like to geek out on all things cyber related. So yeah, man, I was happy to pop on here and hopefully answer some questions you guys got and hopefully some information dropped. So yeah,
Yeah, you
thanks.
got the Matrix background right there with the
I,
monitors.
I had to throw something on there, right? Yeah, it was either that or the Norse map, either the Pew Pew map or it was this thing. So I figured I would throw that up. Plus, it helps block some of the stuff I'm working on currently. So, anyways,
It's official. It's official. So,
yeah.
but that's so funny. But Ryan, I got some few questions for you, man. First and foremost, what do you do? Who are you? What are some of your hobbies, interests? How would you describe yourself?
All right, so I definitely say I'm a guy that's passionate about all things electronics. Definitely a nerd.
Yeah.
Appreciate anything that turns on that you can break and fix, and that's kind of always been my personality. I always like to tear things apart, figure out how they work, and put them back together. I'd say probably all started very at a very early age. My parents had a good old Texas Instrument TI 99. I remember playing my first video games out on that and kind of figuring out. They even had an old school type of like almost Visual Basics kind of thing on there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I first got started. And then I just remember anything that turned on VCRs, all that kind of stuff. My parents would basically hand me the instruction manual, and I would figure out how to make things work. So
Right.
yeah, from an early age, I was definitely into electronics. Video games was always in there. So working on apples, working on different things. And then at a very early age, I would say probably around 13, built my first computer.
Oh, wow.
Me and my buddy, we actually started up a small little computer business. We were building little pick and pull parts back in the day when you had all the little computer shops that would sell the different components. So we were building 8088, 286s,
Oh my gosh.
386s. We actually even built beyond that 486, and before they stopped on that with Pentiums, we actually were building out 586 and 686s because everyone thought the numbers would keep going that way. So yeah, did that for a couple of years, and then, as I'm sure everyone is aware, at least those that are older, when Gateway came out, the good old cow boxes, they used to come out with the bundles, like a monitor, big old CRT, and a desktop and a printer for a price, and we couldn't compete with that anymore. So that was pretty much the end of my computer building days, at least at the early age,
That is so funny.
because yeah, I just couldn't compete with them. So
Did you
yeah,
name
that
it? Do you guys have a business? Did you name it?
we actually didn't. No, no. Funny enough, we didn't. I've owned a couple computer businesses. My one following that was Computer MD, which I ran with for quite a long while. But yeah, our original one, yeah, we were just two kids, just driving around to different electronic stores, buying components. Would be like, oh, RAM's cheap here. Let's go buy the RAM
That's
here, and then
so funny.
yeah. So we would just build our custom PCs out from like that. So I got into it at a really early age. Let's see what else. So yeah, and then yeah, after I stopped working there, I actually went to Radio Shack. Missed that place, but yeah, I worked at Radio Shack, and then kind of after that, just kind of did all kinds of things. I was a machinist, I was a welder, I was a painter. I did all kinds of side jobs, but my love was always to get back into computers. And then I finally did go and get my network security degree after I, I was tired of going to places and trying to get a job, and they're like, "Oh, we'd hire you. You got the skills, but you need to have that degree." So I ended up getting network security degree, but and that was before obviously cybersecurity was a thing. So yeah,
Right.
that's kind of where I started. I would say that's kind of how everything started off.
Now, what year is this, roughly?
Back then, so let's see. So that was probably 1998, 2000, somewhere in
Okay.
that kind of time frame. Maybe actually, I got my degree in 2004. Sorry, it was 2004 when I finally ended up getting my network security degree. So yeah, that was good stuff. And then if you want me to dive in what I currently do, I'm currently a principal threat specialist. I am a man of many hats at my current role. We are a very small cybersecurity team. I do security engineering and architecting. Uh, we've I've done we do a lot of implementing, and so hardening. I do a lot of the fun stuff that I get to do when I'm not implementing is threat intelligence.
Okay.
I love threat intelligence. That's my bread and butter. Threat hunting, incident response, and then I also get the fun stuff of doing some light red team pen testing. So running Bloodhound, doing some social engineering,
Gotcha.
that kind of stuff. Um, and the way that I got into this role is after Colonial Pipeline got hit. My current company, so my company decided they wanted to probably stand something up. Obviously, as you know, Colonial Pipeline shut down quite a lot of stuff, and I currently work in an oil and gas critical infrastructure currently.
Okay.
They didn't have any cybersecurity. They basically just had an antivirus. It was time to step it up.
Yeah.
It was time to do something. So actually, my current boss, who was my boss at my previous place, had a healthcare. He ended up pulling me and my coworker over and said, "Hey, do you want to build a cybersecurity program from scratch?" It definitely net new for us. So yeah, that's what
Right.
we did. Uh, we came over here and yeah, we built it up from the ground up. So it's kind of like our baby. It's been very exciting, very challenging, but how much I've learned is pretty much invaluable. We implemented EDR, email gateway security, vulnerability management, a threat intelligence platform, a SIM, DLP. We set up DR plans, did incident response. So pretty much to watch us grow from nothing to be able to compete, or not even compete, but to fend off huge nation state APT groups. We've had to deal with Conti and Lockbit. We've been hit by both of them, and
Oh,
we've
wow.
successfully been able to kick them out hands on keyboard without any. We have never had to pay. So it's cool to see our little team be able to fend off some big nation state actors such as that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a huge notch in our belt. Very proud of that.
Yeah.
Very intense. I've never been in something like that. That was our being here was our first ransomware, two different ransomware incidents. So going
Man.
through that, being an incident commander and trying to work your way and weave your way through dealing with all that is pretty insane. But it's definitely an adrenaline rush, and
Yeah.
it's definitely something that keeps me going. I love it, man. I really do. It's the whole cloak and dagger, the whole like I'm trying to stay ahead of you. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying. It's yeah. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else other than this. I absolutely
That's
love it.
that's fun. It's like, man, like as much as you hate those threat actors, they give you a job. So
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it never ends, man. Like I said, I came from healthcare before this job, so it was mainly dealing with like Chinese APTs,
Oh,
and
wow,
then
okay.
now moving over to here, over to oil and gas. It's pretty much all Russian. It's Russian APTs. I mean, obviously, there's others that try to brute
Right.
force and it's, but I'd say that the big chunk of what I end up dealing with is Russian state actors and that
Man,
kind of stuff.
so you've seen a lot. So what was that initial reaction when your boss was like, "Hey, can you build this, cybersecurity team?" This because I would imagine a lot of people who started in the IT world, like in the late '90s, early 2000s, was not weren't really expecting to be transitioned into a cybersecurity world. And I would imagine a lot of people had the same story as you, where they're like, "Hey, can you do this?" You're like, I mean, yeah, I know a little bit, but yeah, we gotta, and then you see the transition happening from year to year, where it becomes more of a bigger need in companies and stuff. So, what was that original reaction to that request?
Luckily, I love my boss to death, so I would follow him anywhere, kind of thing. It was
Yeah,
one of those situations. I think everyone at some point has some sort of imposter syndrome. I still have it
right.
at some points. I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing? Am I just spitting out stuff that doesn't make sense? Like, I think everyone has that of like, I don't know if I can do this, man. Like I watch people, I watch people's YouTube. I watch people explain stuff and go through stuff, and I'm like, man, webinars and all this stuff, and you're like,
Right,
man, these
right.
guys, these guys are on top of their game. I'm like, I don't think I'm at that level kind of stuff, and like, so you always do have that imposter syndrome, but it's just a matter of getting over that. It helps when you have a team that fully supports you.
Right,
I think that's major, and I think that's a lot of things that some cyber teams, like when people have burnout or different things, it's not having the backing. I've been at places when you don't have managerial support or you don't have higher up support, which
yeah,
makes things very challenging. Luckily for this role, I knew we were coming in net new and that we were just gonna working with different tools. That's the kind of cool thing of like having previous experiences. You know what tools you like, you know what tools work, what tools don't work. So what was really cool about this place is we've with our combined knowledge, we all came in with like we're like, hey, this is what we know is like the best of the line,
right,
or like what we can make work for what we need to do. So having that previous knowledge, I think kind of gave us the backing of like, all right, we can do this, man. Like I know a good vulnerability management tool. I know a good sim. I know a good
yeah,
EDR. Like so, like being able to have that foundation, I think really helped get me over the hump of like, ooh, because my previous job, I was strictly threat intelligence.
okay,
I did a lot of deep and dark web stuff, a lot of breach notification, third party supply chain. So like I was really heavy onto that side. So wasn't sure about the security engineering and security architecting and stuff like that.
right, yeah,
So that I think that would probably I would say is my biggest struggle, at least learning wise. But I think as long as you're open to learning, you got to be hungry to research.
yeah,
I like to fix things, like I said from the get go, like building stuff. Like I know how to break stuff. You got to be good at root cause analysis of hey, let's figure out how to fix this. And then I think also just communication and being able to talk to a vendor or being able to talk to a peer and not being worried about like, oh man, I'm gonna sound dumb because I don't know how to do this, and just kind of lowering your guard of like, hey man, I don't know everything. Can we do this together? And then obviously then it just builds your knowledge, and then you just kind of just get better as time goes on.
yeah. That it's crazy how dense this field has become. I just recently switched over from so I was in ministry for I went to ministry school in Chicago and stuff, and so I've always had an interest in IT, cybersecurity. Like I was first introduced to hacking in video games when I would, play a video game and someone's hacking. I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world, when it wasn't happening to you. When you were doing it, it
Yeah,
was fun.
yeah.
Um, I've always had an interest in it, and then, I didn't really know how to learn. Like I didn't know like I remember vaguely growing up, and I would type in YouTube like how to hack, and I would see like
Mhm.
these other like Kali machines. I'm like, I don't know, this seems really suspicious. I'm like in high school. I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm looking up, what's gonna happen, but and then in college, I started doing try hack me a little bit and kind of familiar with it, but never dove into it. But then when I decided to fully do it, I was amazed. I was like, wow, there is so much to do, and a lot to do, like and you have to do a lot of catch up, like, a lot of people wanna do the hacking, run up, doing pen testing, but it's like, "Hey, you gotta do network plus." You gotta know what an IP address is, and I
Yeah.
remember even till now, like, I'm like, "Oh," you wanna get where you wanna get, but there is so much foundation that you have to set up before you move forward, and, yeah, you might have those rare occasions where you can skip a few steps, but in some ways, you just have to go through the, kind of like college, you have to get your general eds in first, and
Mhm.
then you can do the fun and sexy stuff because it's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
fun. But I remember I mean, even now, there is so much to learn. Like, there's so much, and the importance of like segmenting your learning,
Yeah.
knowing where you're at and just doing one thing at a time. And you hear a lot of people talk about, you're not going to be an expert in all of it, so choose a certain area that you, I guess, enjoy the most and you're good at and makes sense to, and then just go full into that because you're not going to be an expert at all of it. It's
It's
just too dense.
it's yeah, I mean, and that's why, you see the memes of like this the guy standing on the bottom step trying to skip over like the 3, 4 steps, and you're like,
Right, right.
it's the foundational understanding of everything. It's definitely important. And in cybersecurity too, I probably get hit up 1 to 3 times a week of like, hey, my friend's trying to get into cyber. How do I do it? Or hey, and I'm like, I get it. Like, and I get it because that's what I was. I was just like, man, I just want to
Yeah.
get your foot in the door. And for me, it was just like, get your foot in the door. I don't care where it is. And then from there you can progress. But yeah, a lot of people, like, originally I wanted to be a hacker. I wanted to be a pen tester. That's all I wanted to
Yeah.
do. And that's why I started with like VulnHub and Try Hack Me and Hack the
Right.
Box and all these different things and setting up my labs. Because it's the sexy part, right? Like, I can
Yeah.
hack into this, I can hack into your Wi-Fi, I can hack into. But then when you actually get the job, though, you realize, like, at least I know for me, I'm watching our red teamers and our pen testers, and it's fun. It's that sexy thing. But then I realized that's only like 10-15% of your job, because pen
Right.
testing, it's report writing. Like, depending on
Mhm.
where you work, but most places it's report writing on your findings, your exploits, how to remediate, steps forward. Like, I didn't realize how much writing and report writing was included in pen testing. And it actually steered me away from it because I was like,
Oh,
I
wow,
like
okay.
I'll write reports, but like, I don't want to spend most of my day writing reports. And that's
Right.
kind of like how I saw, at least the pen testers that I saw, would come
Mhm.
in and they would hack something, or they would breach something, or exploit some vulnerability, and they would do it quite quickly. And then they would spend the next couple of weeks writing the report findings and writing all that. And I was like, ooh. So I
Right.
would definitely say find something you're passionate about, man, because like that's what's going to show everyone that you enjoy it. Like, for me, it was just like, oh my god, I just want to learn more and learn more, because I got into it as vulnerability management. That's how I got my foot in the door. It was just like, all right, whatever I could get my foot in. And then my boss showed me threat intelligence, and it was like, boom, clicked right there. I'm like, oh my god, this is the
There it
coolest thing
is,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah, so like, I think like just getting your foot in the door, and then just like learning the different avenues, and that's why I usually recommend like Security Plus as your first cert, because it kind of gives that broad range, right? Like, it's
Right.
not too deep, but it's like super wide. You're like, all right, so there's vulnerability management, there's forensics, there's DLP, there's risk and privacy. Like, there's so many different avenues within the cyber. That's why I say try to find something you're passionate about, because otherwise you get this burnout. You see these people and
Mhm.
they're like, man, it's just incident response, and all they're dealing with is phishing, or like whatever the case could be of like where they are in their field. I think it's very important to find something passionate. I mean, it's just like any job, right? Like, make it so it's not work. Like, try to find
Right.
something that it's not
Exactly.
work, and then you're just going to thrive off of it. And like, for me, I love
Yeah.
research. So like, me reading reports, intelligence reports, malware analysis, that kind of stuff, I thrive off of it because I like knowing stuff. I like being able to be like, oh yeah, this is this. Oh yeah, this is this. So
Right,
that's
yeah. Exactly.
kind of where I'm at.
I think too, like in this field, especially people in my position, who are trying to break into the field, I look at, cybersecurity as a place, not, it's not cliche, but not for the weak. And what I mean by that is the require of learning that you have to do and stick with it. A lot of people, at the beginning, they get super excited, they, boot up their Kali machine, they run a,
Mhm.
Dirt Bust or Go Bust or whatever, and they get super excited and they realize how much they don't know. And then you see that number just dwindle down because it's like, yeah, this is too much. This is not for me.
Yeah.
I make it equivalent to I practice jujitsu, and
Mhm.
so they say that only 10% of people who start doing it only get to the next bout, and then only 10% of those people, or only sorry, only 1% of those people that move on to the next bout would actually get their black belt. So it just shows like how much people dwindle down, and I look at cybersecurity very similar to that because it's just by the time you get your first job so many people have already given up because like, this is
Oh yeah.
impossible to get into. It's super hard, and there's a huge influx of people coming in too because of what is happening. So,
Mhm.
how have you seen the difference between when you first got in versus now? Like
It's
culture
pushed really
wise?
hard. Yeah, I'd say it's really pushed really hard right nowadays. Is that the kind of the culture of everything? Everyone knows the breaches are happening. It happens every
Mhm.
single day. Like, all you have to do is look on like Ransom Look and IO, or whatever the sites you want to look on. You see these breaches happen every day. These ransomware hits happening every day, and now it's smaller companies too, right? Like, it's not these just huge companies. I mean, like, there's a lot of small companies that are having to start to realize, they get hit by a phishing campaign. I mean, there's so many things I think that have changed after like Log4j, Proxy Shell, SolarWinds, like all these
Mm,
different things that are starting to, they're bubbling up in mainstream news. So, and then there's also just people pushing for cyber. There's a big deficit, right? Like the skill level and how many people are actually getting into cyber compared to how many people actually need experienced people in those roles. I would say, but yeah, it's definitely changed, I would say. And again, it changed from when it went from network security to cybersecurity, right? The
right,
only downside to that I've seen is like people that jump straight into cybersecurity that don't have the foundational or don't know all this other stuff. They'll come in straight out of grad school or something like that. They don't have any hands-on experience. They don't know how a desktop communicates to a server. They don't know net
right.
flows. They don't know a lot of that stuff. So it's interesting to see the people that are coming in now. I would definitely say, but yeah, I'd say it's definitely changed a lot, at least since I've been in here. So
Do you see a very common theme with newer people coming to the field, like mindset? I mean, even for the sake of like entitlement, right? Where it's like, hey, got these certs, like, am I qualified? Can I get a job? We're like, hold on, because you
yeah,
got a certification, don't mean nothing much. Like,
yeah,
so, like, yeah,
it definitely does. It definitely feels, and I think I don't know if that's just the new generation,
yeah,
of people kind of just feeling like it should be given to me, right? Like I
right,
did this,
right,
so I should get this. I did this, so I should get this kind of thing. And so yeah, I definitely see it. I've been on a ton of panel interviews, being on both sides. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that just come in and figure they have their degree or they have their cert, and that well, this was on the requirement, so I should be good to go.
right,
And I think that they a lot of the times don't do the research about a company. A lot of the people, like, they don't spend the upfront time. Like for me, I want to know who I'm interviewing with, right? Like I
right,
want to know, like look at them on LinkedIn, look at them on different things. What does the company do? What is like some things that you could see from a Shodan search or something like that? Show something that would like pop off, of like, hey man, I've looked at this company. This is what you guys do. This is who your attacks you or whatever. Like coming in with more than just like showing up with like, here's my resume, man. It kind of thing like that,
yeah,
kind of just hoping or expecting to get that job. And I just don't see a lot of people like the follow up, right? Like follow up and answer any questions you couldn't answer. Come back, and, hey, thanks for having me. Like if you have any more questions, feel free. Like I just see a lot of people just kind of turn in their resume and kind of walk away, kind of thing. And you're like,
right,
you're gonna have to give a little bit more, at least for me.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that is interesting because, like, even now, like, it's interesting, being in the same position with so many people there's so many people trying to get into it. Now the question is, like, how do you stand out? Like, because, you can throw your resume in, but thousands and thousands of people have the CompTIA triad,
Uh-huh.
so
Right.
thousand people have the triad and the OCP, and so unfortunately, your resume not be standing out unless you've been in the field for a while, but, like, if you got the triad, OSCP, CEH, the CEH, you
Mhm.
may not even still get a call back. There's so many people who are more qualified, and so it's a really hard industry to get into, but, I think it demands a greater, you know, effort on the person who's applying for the job to get noticed because you have to
100%.
show if you're passionate about it. Anybody can do these certs and just send their resume, but I would imagine most jobs are looking for someone who's passionate and who are willing to do the extra step to get noticed and do these different things to be shown and which will, I think that will stand out. And so do you think a lot of people understand that, or do you think people just don't get that?
I don't know if people are just lackadaisical about it because it doesn't seem like, in my opinion, at least the interviews that I've done, it feels like 1 in 10. And honestly, I probably got my job because I was hungry for it. I was more hungry. I was more persistent. I was more, like I would reach out, like, and how I ended up in cyber. I was doing desktop support work, and kind of
Yeah.
been at my wits end of like, and I finally got to the point where I'm like, hey man, I looked up who the cybersecurity manager was, and I was like, hey, my name's Ryan Kimbrel. This is what I do. Here's my resume. Tell me what I can study. Tell me what I could do to get my foot in the door with you. Like, and that's that was my whole approach, was just like, I got to that point where I'm like, man, I got to try something new. Because I did the online interview, online applications, the,
Mhm.
like the cold calls that you wouldn't get a call back. Like, I did all that kind of stuff. And I finally was just to the point where I'm like, hey man, let me just put myself out there. And luckily I got an interview, and I came in and I couldn't answer all the questions. I couldn't, but I jotted down the questions I didn't know. And I sure as crap, got back later on that day after I figured it out and responded with like, hey, I know I didn't know this, but like, hey, I looked it up, and like, this is the answer to this, this is the answer to this, to show that hunger and that passion of like, hey, I'm passionate. If I see someone passionate about something and they have a drive for it, even if they're lacking the skills,
Right.
it's soft skills. Like, if you can talk to someone, like if you can have a conversation back and
Right.
forth, and it not be awkward. Or we've had been in interviews where people just straight up lie or make up stuff, and you're like, man, I'd rather you say I don't know, but I'll get back to you on that. Or like, hey, that's really interesting. I don't know, but I'm happy to. I want to know. So yeah, if I see someone willing to do that, sometimes I'll take that over someone with a cert or with with something else, because like, I don't want someone coming in monotone. Yeah, this is what I do. Like, just not excited, man. Like, I want someone that's passionate. I want
Yeah.
someone that's like out there. For me, I was like, I'm not in cyber right now, but I have home labs, man. Like, I VM spun up.
Right.
I'm learning what's going on. I'm on. These are a couple different sites that I digest daily. Maybe a threat intel or whatever it could be. You're like, hey, I'm reading on current vulnerabilities and exploits. I'm trying to figure out what I can at home, and like, that shows me you're taking the initiative past of like, hey, I'm just waiting for someone to kind of throw me a bone, of like, hey, I'm actively trying to do whatever I can to bring you value, right? Like, because you're like, I want to bring you value, like,
Right.
whether it's just taking something off your plate, whether it's something that like, hey, you guys don't know. And that was a big thing for me. They're like, cloud security, like, it was just coming in and stuff like that. I'm like, I'll learn it. Like,
Right.
let me learn cloud security. Let me fill a hole you guys need. And I think that's a big thing too, of asking like, hey, what are you guys looking for? Where are some deficiencies you guys are looking that you might be looking to fill? Because then you can say like, hey, I'll look at that. Let me figure some of this stuff out. And for me, I think that's a big thing, is follow up, passion, and just like, that willingness to learn and willingness to try something new, kind of thing. So
That's good. Yeah, I remember when I that very first week I decided switch over. I applied for a SOC analyst role, and it was for Samaritan's Purse, and that's a nonprofit Christian
mhm,
organization. Um, and because I had the ministry background and the experience, they moved me on to the next for the video interview, and there were a prompted question. I had to answer the question, and I'm like a weekend, so I'm like I don't
yeah,
know nothing, and I knew a little bit, but nothing where I could really talk to a
uh,
further extent. And one of the questions was like, "Oh, what is a TCP connection?" I'm
uh,
like, weekend. I was like, I'm like, fluffing it, trying to make it sound good or something.
yeah,
And I really quickly realized after that interview, talking to people and stuff, they're like, "Hey, if it's more important for you to say I don't know than you to fluff up an answer because when you're talking to a customer or client, you can't fluff answers, especially for something like this that can really cause, a company damage
oh
and
yeah,
money. You take it to the even extreme end, they can get
yeah,
hacked because of something that you try to fluff. And so for me, I was like, all right. Now I'm not saying that was the only reason why I didn't get the job, but it was a good reminder and a life lesson. Like, hey, it's okay to say you don't know and show
yep,
humility in those interviews because
100%.
they're not interviewing necessarily for your skills. They want to interview you as a person. Like people want to
Mhm,
be able to work with you. Are you a good coworker? Can you talk to people? Can you
yep,
relate to people? All that stuff is, if anything, maybe more important than the actual technical skills because you can learn that stuff, but you can't talk to no one. You can't, relate to someone that represents the company. And so for me, it was a realization at that point was like, oh, show humility, say I don't know, and
yep,
follow up with that. Even if you don't get the job, if you still follow up, "Hey, we had an interview 2 weeks ago. I know I didn't get it, but you had to ask me this question, and I wanna get back to you." That's gonna leave a mark on those people like, "Oh, he came back," maybe if we have a future opening,
Yep.
we'll maybe contact him and stuff, and then doing the extra mile and making virtual labs, it's funny because you see the memes of, like, entry level help desk, 5 years of experience, and,
Yeah, yeah.
get your OCP, you're like,
Yeah,
"Alright, well, guys, I can't do
yeah,
that." But, doing the extra work of, creating a YouTube channel and creating home labs and sharing what you found, for me, it was like, "Hey, I'm not in the industry, but I can still share my learning experience and help people who are in the same boat as me." That's
sure.
gonna if somebody gets, help from me or whatever the case is, that's good and that's gonna help people. And so, just doing those extra steps. And you don't have to be an influencer. You're not gonna be on TikTok walking down the street, shouting at your phone,
Sure.
like, but
Oh, yeah.
um, yeah, just going the extra step and making yourself, more known and stand out. So
And feeding the community, man. I mean, it's hard enough as it is. It really is. Like
yeah.
it's hard enough. I mean, there's for me. I'm not trying to make it competitive, man. I'm not trying to beat you out, man. I mean, we're dealing with nation state actors. We're dealing with things like I've worked in both critical infrastructure. I've worked in healthcare, and I'm currently in oil and gas. And man, it's for me. I'm in ISACs. I don't know if you're familiar with the ISACs,
Mm-mm.
the information sharing. So I was in the healthcare ISAC. It was the coolest experience for me, to be honest. Is we had our like our own private chat channels and stuff like that, and we would talk about what we're currently seeing in the industry. I'm currently an ONG ISAC. Which is oil and gas ISAC, and so we share information, and it's really cool to be able to share what you're seeing in your industry, because then your peers are like, "Hey, man, these people are probably going to attack me because they're in the same industry," or like that kind of stuff. It's a really cool community, to be honest. It's actually really what got me sharing and stuff like that. I'm because I'll never say I'm the best at anything, but like I'm more than happy to impart my knowledge or share what's going on with other people. Because if I can help someone else fend off an attack or keep their company safe, hey man, that's a win in my book. Like anytime we can help anyone else out, and it's just leveling everyone else up, right? Like so like doing like this call, or like helping people out when they ask me like, hey, how do you get in the industry? I'll give them the basics. Get your security plus, get your eight, the triangle
Right.
comp, get your CYSA 8+ network server, like get that rounded experience, and just learn off of other people. I mean, there's a lot of people that do better malware analysis than me, and I live off of them, man. Like I learn off of them, and I'll pull different tricks or things that they do, and it's really cool when people have blogs or different things of like how they go through that. I have a couple buddies that are pen testers and have really good blogs that like they go through a try hack me or hack the box or vuln hub. So like when you get stuck, like which I do, I get stuck points, and like
Yeah.
people that like have the walkthroughs or have things that can kind of
Mhm.
get you right over the hill, because you can be right there. You just got to crest it. And so for people to be sharing and information sharing, I think cybersecurity is a huge place where that needs to happen. Where you
Yeah.
just you gotta share and help everyone else that's here, because it's hard enough, man. It is. It's hard. It's a hard place to be. That's why there's burnout. That's why there's different things. It's a always changing industry. You always have to stay on what's trending. I mean, it's something that drove me to the field. Is because I like that always changing. I had enough jobs where it's stale. You do the same thing day in
Right,
day out.
right, yeah,
This threat intelligence, threat hunting, doing all this stuff, man. It's incident response. It changes daily. So
yeah.
being able to help other people and share information it is just paramount for me.
That's so good. How do you what do you say to those people who are, again, in my position, and they're reaching out to people like, "Hey, how can I do this?" Are there questions that you think they should be asking that they aren't? Or do you see even like maybe a slight desperation in their, message, where it's like, "Hey, I need a job, can you help me?" Where it's like, "Hey, relax," like maybe some like not common courtesy, but like a way to approach someone about, job opportunities or even just connect with people.
For me, it's been, yeah, just start that talk, right? Like just
Mhm.
like you did to me. You
Yeah.
you just reach out. You're just like, hey. because again, I think this wraps up a lot of that go back to imposter syndrome of like, man, I don't know if I can do this. And like, you got to be humble. Like, you ask
Yeah.
those questions, man. Ask the questions. I mean, the worst most people can say is no, right?
Right.
No. All right, cool. I've been told no so many times it's stupid, kind of deal. But it's that persistence, right? And you got to have a passion for it. So you got to keep trying. Got to keep trying. Like I said, even getting my foot in the door for cybersecurity, it took a long time, man. Like it took tons of interviews, tons of applications, tons of like I just say stay persistent. Hopefully, at some point, a door will open, right? Like, and maybe it's not what you want, but maybe it'll get you there. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that work either, right? Like, they don't want to take a help desk job. They don't want to take a desktop job.
Right.
Like you can't come in entitled like you had mentioned earlier, of like, hey, I got my degree or I got this cert. Like, there's no way I'm gonna go be a desktop tech. Well,
Mhm.
the reason I got into cyber was because I was a desktop tech at a site at a company that ended up having an opening, and or actually I kind of forced an opening, kind of deal. But
Right.
it's the willingness to take a job that maybe it's not your direct path, but maybe you have a vertical or a path forward to, like, hey, maybe I work in network for a year or on a server team or whatever it is. But as long as they have a cyber team I want to get onto, get my name out there, get my name
Right.
known, like kind of put in that work. And while you're doing that, you're also building your resume, right? Like, every time you pop onto a new job and do new stuff, make sure you update your resume, update your LinkedIn of what you're doing, what you're currently working on. Like, even on my resume, I put in progress. Like, I didn't have all the certs that I was, but I put that on my resume, in progress, working. I'll have my
Right.
CEH in 20, whatever, or whatever the case could be. It shows that you're actively trying to push forward, and you're not just like, here's my resume, here's my resume. And I think just having that humble approach and just kind of always keep trying, man. Just keep
Yeah.
trying, because eventually, like, you see it, like, everyone, there's jobs posting all the time. Sure, they
Yeah.
might not be taking you right now, but like, just keep trying, or
It's
take
yeah.
another job within that company and work your way there, because you're not always going to get that job you want right off the bat.
Right. Right. On the flip side, do you think in this industry though there is a lot of gatekeeping? You hear that word gatekeeping, where it's like you have to follow the traditional path, where it's like, hey, yeah, I wasn't help desk, but I have all the technical skills. I have the ability to talk and stuff. I have the soft skills, and like, do you think there's a lot of gatekeeping? If so, do you think that's gonna be slowly dissolving, or you think that's always gonna
Hope
be
it
some
has.
part of
I
it?
hope it will, and it is. Like, and that's why I ended up getting my degree. Was I knew how to do everything, but there's so many, like, HR. Like, I won't get past HR because I don't have this cert.
Right.
I won't get past HR. And unfortunately, or luckily, I've been in companies that don't really have that. My last job did, but like where I'm at now, it's more. It's not like that. But there definitely is a lot of the bigger companies. Definitely a lot of the like large
Mm.
companies, you got to get past those first stages, and sometimes you won't get past HR without a certain cert, like, especially if it's on a requirement, even though that you need it. So I'm hoping that slowly starts to dissolve, especially with such a high need for people in cybersecurity.
Right.
And guess what? People aren't going to get level up until they start getting their hands on stuff. You can only get so far on a lab. You can only get so far with things without seeing real life data, without real life stuff, without being on tools, seeing actual flows. I'm hoping that it does start dissolving a little more. Plus, and then I think another thing too is people, right, like word of
Mhm.
mouth and like
Yep.
stuff like that. Like, I've worked with a lot of good incident response people, so if I needed to hire someone, I'm gonna start with that pool. Like, so like a lot, there's a lot of that, unfortunately, too, of
Yep.
like, hey, but like, you want to work with the best people, or you want to do this. And so I think that's why a lot of this stuff is an entry level job, might get you to where you need to, like, get, like, everyone in cyber team knew who I was when I was on desktop support, because like, I made sure that my name was out there, that like they knew
Yep.
what I wanted to do, that like, like it was out there. So um yeah, it is, like you said, it's a trend. Like you're getting your CISSP. People are throwing those down everywhere, and you're like, well, that's kind of a manager, more of a manager role. But it gets
Right.
you past HR, right? Like, if you have your CISSP, it's going to get you past a lot of HR. So I think it just depends on the approach that you come at, and it also depends on the company that you're going for. Unfortunately, I think you got to kind of gauge the company, of like kind of what they're looking for. Sometimes you
Yep.
can see it in kind of the questionnaires or the applications themselves. You're like, ew. But
Yeah.
again, the worst thing they can say is no, right?
Yep.
Like, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, is that yeah, just keep applying, keep sending stuff in, keep trying. And again, I hope the gatekeeping slowly starts going away. You got to get people in some way, right? Like, especially with everyone trying to be competitive with wages and stuff like that. Yeah, you kind of hope the gatekeeping goes away, but that's more of the HR thing. So it comes down to, I think, the hiring managers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had talked to someone and they were like, "Oh, well, before I got into cybersecurity, I was IT help desk for 4 years and then I, did this and that and I was finally able to get into it." And it was like I I'm like, "Thank you." I know, like I understand that, but I'm like, "You." I'm like, "All right," but um I think, I'll just say, it's this, we keep talking about it, but just, keep applying and don't get discouraged and share your, frustrations and your findings on the internet. It doesn't matter where you start because it sounds
Yep,
cliche, but everybody can give something back. And so
100%.
even if you have no technical skills, you can still help those who are in the same shoes as you. And in that, a job looks you up, LinkedIn, they see you, oh wow, this person's really, really passionate about this and they're, helping people and their ability to do so. We like that. We wanna see that in our employees and be able to move forward with this person. So 'cause I think it's a little intimidating too with, posting stuff online. "Hey, this is what I found, a basic, SQL injection." It was like,
Mhm.
dude, that was like 2002, like, right, but that's what I find that this is not in this industry. People are not like that. They're not, as far as I've come across, they're actually, encouraging and that's, very supportive in that because everybody was at one point where you're at, you know?
Oh, 100%.
It's like you're not gonna see the guy who's jacked in the gym laugh at a scrawny kid for working out. He's like, "No,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
that kid too," you know? And if you do, well, then
100%.
you're just a jerk,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you will run across those. Like you just
yeah,
will. I mean, it's certain personalities, man, right? Like you're just gonna run across those
right,
personalities. You just got to ignore the hate, ignore that stuff because guess what? Everyone's on their own path. Everyone's on their own journey. Not everyone's path is going to be a straight way. Mine
right,
sure wasn't. I mean, like I said, man, I did all kinds of jobs before. I finally like just was like, I'm locking down this job, and that's kind of where it got to. Is like I'm like I don't whatever I got to do, man, I'm going to do that. And it's just that passion, being able to research, keep pushing. And like you said, like as time goes, you're just going to keep building that resume too. You're going to keep learning stuff. And that's why you don't stop learning just because you got told no or something like that. Because guess what?
right,
At
right,
some point, you're going to be able to reference this other stuff. You're going to be able to like, hey, man, I did this or I did that. Oh, I know about that. And it's cool when you start learning about that stuff and you can speak on something intelligently, even though you're not in the field. Like you can still be like, hey, man, like I saw this malware and this is what it does. And not just using malware as an example, but whatever
right,
you enjoy doing, like you can talk on it. And I think the longer you keep researching, the longer you keep setting up labs, the longer you keep interviewing, I mean, you start learning, right? Like what they're going to ask you, kind of like, all right, they're going to ask me these general questions. Like keep a notebook, man. Like every interview, man, I got a notebook. I'm writing down questions I don't know. I'm writing down things I don't know because guess what? At some point, someone else is going to ask me,
mhm,
and I want to be able to talk about it. So yeah, it's definitely a interesting field. You got to be passionate, I would say, for cybersecurity. You just
yeah,
have to. Like you just things are always going to change. You're not going to be in a job that is literally the same every single day.
yeah,
It's not going to happen. It's the trends, the different things that happen within there, especially if you get into like incident response or something like that, man.
yeah,
If you like fast, quick work and just like being able to multitask, be quick on your toes, dude, incident response is fun. There's just a lot of different niches and different fields too. That like I have buddies that all they do is forensics, or all they do is coding, or all they like. So
mhm,
yeah, again, yeah, I think it always comes back to find something you enjoy. That it's like it's not work, man. Make it
yeah,
not work. Make it something you enjoy doing, and you'll thrive. It'll show. It'll bleed through. It'll bleed through interviews. You get excited. You get all smiley and giddy.
yep,
Like yeah, man, let's do this. And like I see that passion from someone. I'm like, oh, dude, for sure. Like
yeah.
I have people
Smile.
right now. that are on our desktop team. I'm like, hey man, if we ever get an open spot to pull someone else in, I would love to have this guy because he'll send me saying, hey man, did you see this? And, I'm in threat intelligence. I'm like, yeah, I saw it a week ago. I don't say that,
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, that's dope, man. Yeah, that's awesome. What did you learn from it? Kind of stuff like that, or what did you pull from that? What got you further along reading that report or doing this? And like, you see that smile or that something. I'm like, man, this dude's passionate about that, man. I'd love to have this guy on my team.
yeah,
Like, I can teach you the tools. You can always teach tools.
yeah,
It's tools, man. Like it's a security appliance. Yeah, I can teach
mhm,
you that, but I can't teach you the critical thinking. I can't
right,
teach you like soft skills. I can't teach you how to talk to someone, how to talk to a vendor, how to talk to a board member, how to talk to an IT lead. Like you got to have those soft skills as well, and just be like, for me, like doing desktop support, doing like it helped me like be able to break down, like, oh, your email's broken. All right, we'll click on, like having that, like, just like ability to like talk to someone and like
yeah.
walk them through stuff, I think is another huge thing that is just a huge skill for me. Like, I'm like, man, if you can talk to someone like that, if you can like break it down to someone on whatever level, whether it's a high executive level or you can get into the weeds kind of stuff like that, I'm like, man, yeah, this is someone that'll go far in cybersecurity for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just so important, like talking about the soft skills, man. Just know how to talk to people, and if you're an introvert, this is, you still have the ability to talk to people. You still have the ability to do things that an extrovert can do. You may not necessarily be the most comfortable on the mic or on a video or even doing a quick, presentation, but that's something that you can learn. It's the same thing with an extrovert. There are times where you have to learn how to just maybe even just take a step down, calm down,
Sure.
relax,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so like even like conversations and just networking, I think that's a huge part too is no one really talks about how to network. Like you can talk to people and make friendships, but networking is not necessarily, "Hey, let's be friends so I can, get from you." There's exchange, you give back, they give to you, and there's a relationship there. It's not only, "Hey, I see you as a way to get something else." Because I think people can see that. And so I think people in maybe in my position, you don't come off so desperate like that, like you just see someone where you can get something from them. It's not like that. And I think people can recognize that and see that. Because you don't want to get no one likes to be used,
Yeah, oh,
it's all
100%.
about
Yeah.
building relationships and stuff. So how would you speak to that, even just building good relationships, not necessarily to get jobs, but how do you network with people? Like what does that look like?
So for me, obviously, LinkedIn's a big one for me.
Hmm.
Like I started obviously with like very little people, but I just started posting because I was like, hey man, interesting to me. I'm
Right.
gonna put it out there. But I've had a lot of people reach out to me. I think LinkedIn is obviously huge. Is a huge networking thing. Going to local things.
Mm,
Go to
yeah.
a local ICS thing. Go to a local B sides. Go to something that that there's some sort of networking, and that's a huge thing. And I'm glad you touched on that. It is like, start talking, start meeting people, start going out there, and because guess what? Maybe that person is looking for something,
Mhm.
or maybe in the future they're like, hey, I met this person over here. He's interested in this. I use Discord a lot too because so many people have so many helpful Discord channels.
Right. Yep.
So many, like Hack the Box has one, like there's I think I'm probably on like 200 different Discord channels for all kinds of different things. But like just start talking with people in there. If they're talking about something that you're interested in, like especially like labs and stuff like that,
Mhm.
you can deep dive with people for a really long time. And I know a lot of people have gotten jobs out of that. They just, a lot of places have job postings on Discord. They have different things like that. So you can kind of start getting your mindset into that. But yeah, just reaching out. I do like DEF CON and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's how you have to, but like
Right.
we meet people there, right? Like, oh, hey, what do you do for a living? And you kind of start getting that thing. And you're like, oh, cool, man. Like if I need someone that's in that certain niche of work that you do, cool. Let me get your contact information. And let me ping you because I don't know everything. Far
Right.
from it. Guess what? I know a lot of people that are in almost every field, so like I can ask them, kind of thing like that. And yeah, like you said, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to come up and talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions. Of like, hey,
Right.
how do I do this? I also joined the FBI InfraGard. Why? Just because I could network on that kind of stuff like
Mhm.
that, and it's just these little different things, little webinars that you pop on. Ask a question in the webinar. Like
Yeah.
all these, they all have, you see Proofpoint, you see all these big companies always having these webinars on current trending things and current this thing. Hey, ask questions in there, like ask something in there, or
Yeah.
like kind of that stuff, and your name will pop up and people might mention to see that, or make a list of the person that's talking, and like to reach out on LinkedIn. Hey, really appreciate what you shared today. Like, do you have any other
Mm.
tips? And I know some people just are like buzz off kind of stuff like that, but
Right.
there are people, like I would hope, like to think I am, is where I'll respond to you, like I'll
Mhm.
do what I can to help you. I might not know the answer, I might point you to a different direction, kind of thing like
Right.
that. I think it's just a matter of I think you have to be proactive in that
Yeah.
approach. Like, people aren't going to just come up to you and like just start dropping stuff on you, right? Like, so
Right.
like you got to be that proactive person. I know it's hard when you're an introvert to do that.
Yep.
I feel like this job's definitely kind of made me not as much as an introvert of coming out, because you have to
Yeah.
come
You
out
have
and
to.
talk with someone. You have to do, because again, it goes back to like, do people feel entitled? People kind of just feel like they should just get these
Mhm.
jobs or get these kind of things. Like, you got to put out the effort. You got to meet the people. You got to meet these. You got to be the one
Right.
that's pushing
Yep.
forward with. So
Yeah, I look at it at like making new friends and like you go to, let's just say for example, like for those who are maybe in college or just out or even just moved for a new job, you have to put time and effort into relationships. So if, let's just say example, real life situation where you are new to a work and some of the coworkers are going out to get food or whatever, and you're tired, you don't want to, you have to go because that's how you build relationships and
yep,
that's how you continue to be able to connect with people. Like for me on LinkedIn, like if I follow someone, I am not gonna instantly contact them right away. I just think that
yep,
comes off a little off, like, you just, be with them, interact with them, like their material, and then you start reaching out slow because it builds that, like, "Okay, I know who you are, I've seen you like my
yep,
posts and stuff," and so but don't follow someone, and then that first hour you message them, "Hey, can you give me a job?" Like, even like for you, like, I followed you for, I think, 9 months before I even contacted you at all.
yeah.
I just, and first get to know the person you're talking to too,
Oh,
just because
100%.
they're
Yeah.
just because they're in the field don't mean you should be, interacting with them, so just, make that time and effort to reach out to people, to make friendships with them, and just engage with their material. If, they're, a quote unquote public figure. Follow their works. Their workplace. For me, I think I had reached out to someone, and then I just follow their company, LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and I've had so many people view my profile. They haven't gotten back to me, but they continue to view my profile and are looking out, and so um, connect with people. Don't be a jerk. Don't be desperate. Just,
Yeah.
talk to them, ask for advice, and then don't even ask for a job right away. Just ask for advice. Hey, I did this.
Mhm.
Can you even maybe look over my resume? Would you have any tips? And then just make connections with people, make friendships, join discords. There's a lot, like you said, that you can join, interact with people. If somebody puts on Discord, hey, how do I do this? Answer back. Like,
Yep.
you have to put the effort into it. And I think that's where you will see people fall back, where they're like, okay, yeah, this ain't for me. But if you
Yep.
are really genuinely passionate about it and you like it, put the effort into it, and it will work out for you at the end. And
Can
if
agree
not,
more.
you might make connections with people, and so that's all that is.
Yeah, word. Yeah, no, for yeah, it is, man, and that's what it comes down to, man. Building relationships. It comes down to relationships, right? And I see it a lot in like different vendors and different, like
Mhm.
all the way across the board, right? Like, whether it's a user, a vendor, whatever it is like you build those relationships, and if I ever leave here, I already know who I'm reaching out to, right? Like, because I have
Right.
those relationships, right? Like, so like it's just one of those things. Like, I have a relationship with you, I vibe with you, whatever the case can be. I know you're passionate, hungry, whatever the case could be. And yeah, man, I would just keep following that trend of just putting yourself out there, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ryan, man, I appreciate you taking this, man. It was, I'm sure it's gonna help. It helped me and helped a lot of other people. I'm sure that are gonna listen to this. Again, thank you for taking the time, and I
Yeah,
feel like there's
anytime.
so much more we can dive into.
Oh
What you
yeah,
actually
I can
do,
geek
some
out for
stuff you
days,
come
man.
across. Um, man, I just appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.
It's gonna help a lot of people I know, and for me too. So. But
Awesome. Awesome. Glad to help, Zach. Glad I could pop on here. And yeah, man, you guys, if you have any additional questions, want to deep dive into any of this stuff, man, like I said, I can geek out on all kinds of stuff. You start talking about threat intelligence, threat hunting,
yeah.
dark web stuff. I'm like, man, let's go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, appreciate it, man. Do you have any last minute advice? What is your one sentence, your two sentence, your staple? Drop the mic
For
moment right here.
Oh man, that's rough, man. For me, it'd just be don't give up.
Yeah.
Literally, it would just be a don't give up, man. Because like, if you're truly passionate about what you want to do, it's the cliche of don't give up on your dreams kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
like if you really like it, man, just keep trying, keep
Right.
pushing, because you'll find a way. No matter what, you'll find a way. Whether it's by knowledge, luck, just dumb luck,
Yeah.
whatever it is, man. Like if you keep your head on, man, you keep pushing forward. You don't get discouraged. Push past your imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Uh, you can do it, man. Like I don't see anyone not able to do it if you're passionate and willing to put in the work.
Right. It's gonna turn out.
Yep, for sure.
Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. I'll put your information. Where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's usually probably the easiest. I'm spread out all across different
Okay.
things. So
Yeah.
I'd say the easiest way is LinkedIn,
Okay.
because I at least keep that updated and posted. The other stuff, I'm all over the board. So yeah, definitely LinkedIn. Yeah, you can follow me at LinkedIn at any time.
Sweet. Well, again, appreciate it, Ryan, and
No problem.
we'll be in touch soon. So,
All
but
right, bud.
yep. Thank
Have a
you.
great one.
Cheers.
Later.